Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another Monday this and that video. And for those of you who are new to my channel, what these types of videos are just a way that I can keep you updated on current things, collaborations going on, lead you back to some old videos I may already have, or let you know of videos yet to come. So keep in mind, I am covering several different topics. So let's get to the topics of today. And the first one is the dried vegetable kimchi. Some of you know from a couple of this and that's ago, I did some dried cabbage, and I am so happy with this. In fact, I'm going to be shooting a separate video on how I did it because I have a bunch coming in today from Misfits Market, and I'm going to be dehydrating all of it. At least that's my plan. And so yesterday, one of the things I did was I have some organic ramen noodles that don't have any of their own seasoning packs, and I like that because I can make my own seasoning. And I decided to try adding the dried cabbage to that, and I loved it. And then the other thing I decided to try, since I've already been making like vinegars and sodas from dried goods, I thought, why not try using the cabbage to make a kimchi? So everything I used in this, other than the fermentation starter and the water, were dried ingredients. That includes carrots, the cabbage, of course, onions and garlic, and some other spices such as cayenne pepper and some red pepper flakes. When I did this, because these ingredients are dried, I only filled the jar up halfway to this point with the vegetables. I used a pint-sized jar of my cabbage and then just sprinkled in the dried carrots and everything else, and it filled up about half the jar. Then I added in my fermentation starter and my water to top it off with so that it would be covered. And you can see within a day, it absorbed most of that, a lot of that liquid, and filled up the jar. I'm thinking because of the space in there, I probably still could have added a little bit more dried ingredients, but just want to tell you that right up front. If you're going to try something like this, you've got to allow for expansion of your dried goods. But that was a pretty good guess on that. So I did taste it, and it's really good. It actually still has a nice crunch to it, which I prefer with my kimchi. I prefer crunchy kimchi over a soggy, soft kimchi. They're both good. I just like having some kind of crunch in there. So I'm pretty happy with this. And so that tells me that if I ever get around to actually growing cabbage, I get nervous about cabbage worms. I do have cabbage seeds. I know people wrap the heads in nylon stockings and whatnot, but if anybody else has some other suggestions to help me prevent cabbage worms in my cabbage, I would like to get back into growing it again. And then I know that I can either way dehydrate up a bunch and then have it. If I'm in the mood for kimchi, I don't have to wait for my next Misfits Market order, or the next time I've got it growing in my garden. I can just use my dried cabbage and get some going like that. And anyway, if you're interested in how I make my kimchi, I don't use a brine like I used to do, which is the traditional method. I have my own unique style. I'll link to my video down below I did a year or so ago on how to make a brine-free kimchi. And then be watching for the video I'll have coming out soon on the dehydrated cabbage, how to do it, and then how to use it. But so far, super, super pleased with it. Which, by the way, I have dehydrated red cabbage before, then powdered it up, and it makes a beautiful food coloring because it's this nice, lovely, rosy purple color. Okay, and another thing I wanted to mention is we've been getting these for our different systems for both the public power and our solar power setup, as well as some of our different rigs. We've been getting these EMP shields. Now, we are an affiliate with them now, and so I'll be putting the affiliate link down below, which I believe you can save $50 on your purchase, because, you know, these are an investment for sure. But we don't have house insurance anymore. We let it go because they failed us when after 30 years of paying in, and then our roof, a good chunk of our roof blew off during a storm, and it was still within the time period it should have been covered. They wouldn't cover it. So we had to pay for a whole new roof ourselves. Thankfully, we have other ways that we prepare, and that is by having money on hand for such emergencies. But because we let our house insurance go, we're looking at other ways to ensure what we're doing here. And so instead of spending all that money every year, into insurance, that's not going to help us out at all. We're doing things like this. But yes, we got some for like Patrick's heavy equipment for our vehicles and so on. And what they do is they will protect your electronics against EMPs, solar flares, and lightning strikes, so that these things will still be operational for you if something like that happens. I really like the peace of mind of having this on hand. And by the way, this is a US based company and it is all made in the US. So if you're interested, please check out the link I'll be putting in the description box down below. All right, now this is a big one. I didn't want to put it in the title of this video, but I wanted to get this out right away. Some of you already know who pay attention to some different places that I post, such as the community section here on YouTube on my channel. There's some of you might not know there's a separate community section where I can just put photos or just a text-based post when I want to make announcements. And a lot of you know that I had a MeWe account because life got so busy with the second grandbaby coming in, and now me watching 2 grandbabies and trying to keep up on my videos and my garden and the other various things I do around here. I did sort of forget about it for a time, but I wanted to keep it in case I ever wanted to go back in there. So I had a group on MeWe as well as my profile. Well, somebody had sent me an email who was in that group to let me know that somebody else took the group over without my permission. I know a lot of you don't know what MeWe is. I'll explain that in just a minute. And I was pretty upset about it because at first they didn't even bother to change the name. Well, they did. They changed the name from Rain Country Homestead to hashtag Rain Country Homestead, and then changed the background photo from a nice pretty garden picture I had to some pantry photo that wasn't mine. And there was nothing I can do about it because they also booted me out of the group. Well, I managed to get back into the group by putting in another request, which I was surprised that happened. And when I went in there, I made sure to make a bunch of comments, both in the chat and on posts, knowing they would be deleted, but trying to make sure I was getting the word out there that I no longer own this page, because I wasn't sure if they would ever change the name of the group, and I didn't want people to think it was still me in charge. He did, after several requests, change the group name to Robert's Country Homestead. And so if you were already in that group, you go in there and say, whoa, I don't remember being a part of that group. Well, that's because that was mine. And then after he did that, I do appreciate the fact that he honored my request to change the group name and to tell the people that he was the new owner. I don't know that he was honest and told them how he took it over, but he then booted me out of the group again and blocked me from being able to see anything at all. Whether he changes the name of it or not, I'll never know unless someone lets me know. But after that, I did try to contact MeWe support. They never got back to me. And so I just deleted my account altogether. And as such, and I told them this too, I no longer am recommending MeWe as a social media site as a good alternative to Facebook. Now, those of you who have never heard of it, that's what MeWe was established for, because a lot of people were getting upset about having their posts be removed or fact checked or getting put on timeout or put in Facebook jail, and they wanted a place where they could have a good social media site where they could actually have their freedom of speech. That's what MeWe was established for. And while it seems like they are still honoring that, I found it pretty poor business practice for them to just go ahead and hand over an inactive account just because someone hadn't been in there for a while to anyone who asks. And this particular man who took over my group, he's taken over many groups the same way. So he goes into groups, he keeps an eye on them, and when he sees an activity, he then will ask MeWe to hand it over to him, and they just gladly do it. They don't even care. I think that's, even Facebook, as evil as it can be, has never done that I know of. They've never just handed any of my inactive groups, and I've had quite a few over the years, long before I even started a channel. They've never just handed it over to whoever asked. And they just archive the group, which I would prefer. I would much rather have my group be completely deleted than to hand over to a complete stranger that I don't even know, and I don't know how they're going to represent me. So anyway, I'm pretty upset about that. And because of that, I'll never go back to MeWe, and I'll never recommend anyone go there. So if you see any of my old videos where maybe there's a MeWe link in the description box, or I'm even talking about MeWe, ignore that. I'm no longer there. And as I said, I will never go back. And by the way, I'll be doing a separate video with a little more detail on this down the road, so you can be watching for that. It'll be about a month because I'm shooting it later today, and I'll keep you updated if I hear anything more. But I do appreciate the people that stood up for me in that group and then proceeded to get deleted and blocked. So thank you for that. Thank you for standing up for me. Okay, and a couple other things is that I want to thank Meg. She lives here in Washington State. She sent me some black coat runner beans. They look very similar. She sent me pictures of the plant. Very similar to the scarlet runners that I love to grow. I love runner beans here. They do the best for me. Bush beans I never have do very well with, but runner beans always do excellent. So the scarlet runner, the sunset runner. Anyway, she's here in Washington State, and I think she's on, if I remember correctly, on the west side of the mountains like me, because Washington's in two halves. One half is very, very dry, and the other half is very wet. And anyway, she said these do very good for her. I think the only difference is the way the beans look. They're about the same size, but these are pure black. So black coat runner beans. So I'm anxious to try these out. And I gave some to a friend of mine that lives in our area as well, so she could try them as well. So I'm excited to give that a try. Thank you for those beans. I wanted to talk about vitamin C in particular. So some of you have been following, keeping up to date on the whole issue with my knee and what I did to it and how I've been, all the various things I've been doing to help speed up the healing process. And one of the things, and though I know all the different herbs and the rubs and stuff I've been using have been very, very helpful, one of the things that made the biggest difference was quadrupling per day. I started by doubling, and then I quadrupled the amount of vitamin C I'm taking. But one thing I want to give you an update on is that when I got to looking closer at the ingredients, I thought, I better look at these ingredients again, because sometimes I forget. I might read them and then forget about it, and then start taking something and then think, I better look again and see what they're adding to that, if they're adding anything. And then I found that they're adding not only silica, which is fine. Silica can be very healthy for you. It can be good for the skin, the hair, help clean parasites out of your system, but too much can be bad for you. And with me quadrupling the amount of capsules I was taking, I figured I better stop. And that applies to diatomaceous earth and horsetail. When I make horsetail tea, I might only make a pot a week, but I always take breaks from it. And then the other thing that was in there was the magnesium stearate. Well, we hear magnesium, well, that's a good thing, but magnesium stearate isn't necessarily healthy for you, and it's often added to capsules that have any kind of powder in it because it helps prevent it from clumping in there. So after reading about that, I thought, no, I'm not going to take those anymore, at least not when I'm trying to take a good amount to help speed up the healing. So I'm taking 4,000 milligrams per day. That was what really made the difference. And I started noticing the cramping and the leg as it's healing, really backing off and more. And then I remembered I had a pure vitamin C powder that I had put in a jar and then forgot about. And so what I'm doing now is I'm taking this. And I just suggest when you look for it, this is supposed to be more pure and organic. I don't fully trust anything anymore, but it says it's nothing in there but vitamin C. That's it. And so what I'm doing is a quarter teaspoon equals 1,000 milligrams. So 2 times a day, just like I was taking the 2 capsules 2 times a day of the Now Foods, what I'm doing with this is 2 times a day, I'm taking a half teaspoon so I can get 2,000 milligrams in the morning and 2,000 milligrams in the evening. And what I'm doing is just mixing it with a little shot of water, and it is as tart can be. But I would much rather do this than continue to take the capsules and possibly have some side effects because of that. Because here's the thing, too much silica actually can cause kidney stones. So if people are getting kidney stones from taking vitamin C, it's not from the vitamin C. It's because of what other additives in the capsule. And then when I learned that silica is one of the things that can cause kidney stones, I thought that's probably where they're getting it from, and then blaming it on the vitamin C when it has nothing to do with it. Vitamin C would be more apt to break up kidney stones, not to cause them. So anyway, this is what I'm doing now, and I recommend if you're going to do that, especially if you're looking at taking higher doses like I'm doing right now to help your body heal for a period of time, then I recommend just getting a powder, and you can even encapsulate it your own. Just get your own veggie caps. I keep some on hand. I just hate encapsulating stuff and hate having to buy the capsules, but I keep them on hand for the things I really need to encapsulate. But as long as I can stand doing it this way, and I do like tart things, I'm just gonna keep doing that. I'm sure there's ways you can make it more tasty and add some maple syrup to it or something, or raw honey. Now remember, some people are actually given doses as high as 10,000 milligrams per day to help their body heal from various different things. And if you get too much, you'll know it because your body will flush it out. The first signs you'll have are upset stomach, and then you'll have diarrhea. That's just, your body will just flush it out. And so you'll know when you start getting too much, and then just back off. And I suggest, if you're going to try doing something like this, don't jump up from 1,000 milligrams per day to 10,000. Increase it slowly, because everybody's going to respond differently to it. And for one person, maybe 5,000 is going to be too much. Another person's going to be 8. Another person's going to be 10. So don't just, and that applies to any medicinal herb, any supplement. You should always start small and work up. And when you see yourself having any kind of reaction, be it diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, dizziness, rashes, whatever, then back off and stop for a time to let your body just kind of get back to normal, and then start small, then find what the perfect dose is for you. And then one more thing I wanted to bring up real quickly is I have a video I did a couple of years ago about canning potatoes, how I store potatoes, and I talked in there about dehydrating. Some people leave the peels on their potatoes before they dehydrate and can. I don't. We don't prefer to leave the peels on, especially for those kind of things. But some people do. And somebody came in and was just going on about how the USDA recommends peeling your potatoes before preserving them because there could be botulism, and no matter how clean you get your potato skins, you can still have botulism in there, and that's why you should peel it. That's what the USDA says. Well, first of all, I don't trust everything the USDA says, and we've already seen in the past few years how utterly incompetent any kind of government entity can be. But also the fact that how silly that is, that the purpose of pressure canning isn't just about sealing the jars. If it was just about sealing the jars, you could vacuum seal anything and you'd be fine. It is about the heat and the pressure that kills the botulism spores. And even peeling the potatoes, you could still end up with botulism spores in there. So that's pretty silly to think that you have to peel your potatoes to prevent botulism when you have to pressure can it anyway. Or water bath can for 3 hours. And if you're dehydrating, well, it's still not going to matter because botulism isn't going to survive in such a dry climate. So if those potatoes are fully dry, there shouldn't be any issue. You shouldn't have any concerns. Anyway, I just want to point that out, that just because .gov websites tell you something, it doesn't mean it's not true, but it doesn't mean you have to follow all their guidelines for everything. They're not always right. And I often think there's a lot of stuff out there that tries to scare people away from doing their own home food preservation so that they won't do it. And yet people have been doing this for centuries without a nanny state telling them how they should do it. And if you actually look at the statistics of botulism, first of all, which is very rare, and even when it is, you're more likely to get it from store-bought foods than your own home canned goods, especially if you're pressure canning or water bath canning at the proper times. The dirt in there is not going to matter. You could probably dig a potato up straight from the ground and stick it in a jar and can it with all that dirt in it, and you're still not going to get botulism because the heat and the time that it's under that heat is going to kill it. So don't allow people and places like that to fearmonger you, to prevent you from doing what you can to take care of yourself and your family for long term, especially in the case of food shortages and more. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say for my this and that for today. Please share your thoughts and ideas in the comments down below. And don't forget to check out any links like to the kimchi making video that I'll be putting in the description box down below by clicking on that long horizontal box just below the video, or if you're on the smart device, the word more over here, just under the video screen, and just touch that and we'll open it up and you can find everything that I put in there. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.